John Bonham, the thunderous heartbeat of Led Zeppelin, redefined rock drumming with his explosive power and innovative techniques. His distinctive style, characterized by lightning-fast bass drum work and groove-oriented beats, became the gold standard for generations of drummers. Bonham's impact on music was seismic, elevating the role of the drummer from mere timekeeper to a central force in a band's sound. Yet at the height of Led Zeppelin's success, tragedy struck, silencing the drums that had driven one of rock's greatest bands. Join us as we explore the life, death, and enduring legacy of rock's most iconic drummer. The rise of a drumming legend.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting beside a guy who is possibly the best rock and roll drummer on earth. Would you agree with that?
No, not really.
I'm sure you would agree with that, John.
Not at all.
No, he doesn't agree with that at all. And I'm going to ask him a most important question here. John, we've been watching that bit film there, and you do some really exotic... It must have taken you years to learn to play like that, did it?
Not really.
In the quaint English town of Redditch, a thunderous sound emerged from the Bonham household. Young John Henry Bonham, born May 31st, 1948, was already making waves with his makeshift drum kit of containers and coffee tins. His parents, recognizing the raw talent, gifted him a snare drum at age 10 and his first full drum kit at 15. Bonham's formative years were a whirlwind of local gigs and band hopping. He honed his craft, playing with various Birmingham bands, including the Senators and Crawling King Snakes. It was during this time he met a young, ambitious singer named Robert Plant. Their musical chemistry was undeniable, setting the stage for a partnership that would change the face of rock music. In 1968, fate intervened. Guitarist Jimmy Page, fresh from the Yardbirds' demise, was on a quest to form the ultimate rock band. Plant recommended Bonham, and after witnessing his thunderous performance at a Tim Rose show, Page was convinced. Despite lucrative offers from established acts like Joe Cocker, Bonham chose to join Page's new venture, Led Zeppelin. The band's ascent was nothing short of meteoric. Their debut album, released in 1969, took the music world by storm. Bonham's drumming was a revelation, powerful, precise, and unlike anything heard before. His technique on tracks like Good Times, Bad Times left other drummers in awe, wondering how he achieved such speed and control with a single bass drum pedal. Bonham's style was a perfect storm of raw power and nuanced musicality. He could pummel the drums with the force of a jackhammer on tracks like When the Levee Breaks, yet display delicate touch and groove on songs like Fool in the Rain. His drum solos, particularly Moby Dick, became the stuff of legend, often stretching beyond 20 minutes in live performances. As Led Zeppelin's popularity soared, so did Bonham's influence on a generation of drummers. His innovative techniques, such as using drumsticks to play triplets on the hi-hat, became widely imitated. He wasn't just keeping time, he was redefining what rock drumming could be. The fateful day.
John Bonham, found dead in bed yesterday in London at the home of the group's guitarist, Jimmy Page.
John Bonham, drummer with the British rock group Led Zeppelin since its inception in 1968, was found dead today at the home of a friend in Windsor, England. Bonham was 32.
The morning of September 24th, 1980, dawned with an air of excitement and anticipation. Led Zeppelin was gearing up for their first North American tour in 3 years, set to kick off in Montreal on October 17th. For John Bonham, it was to be a triumphant return to the stage after a period of relative quiet. Little did anyone know this day would mark the beginning of the end for the legendary drummer. As the sun rose, Led Zeppelin's assistant, Rex King, set out to pick up Bonham from his home. The drummer, known affectionately as Bonzo to his bandmates and fans, seemed in good spirits as he climbed into the car. Their first stop was breakfast, a seemingly innocent start. At the restaurant, Bonham made a fateful decision. Instead of a typical breakfast, he ordered 4 quadruple vodka screwdrivers. In a matter of minutes, he had consumed the equivalent of 16 shots of vodka, a staggering amount that would have floored a less seasoned drinker. But Bonham, with his reputation for hard living, seemed unfazed. The pair made their way to Bray Studios for rehearsals. Despite the heavy drinking, Bonham took his place behind his massive drum kit, ready to run through the set list for the upcoming tour. His bandmates, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Paul Jones, were used to Bonham's drinking, but even they couldn't have foreseen the tragedy unfolding. Throughout the rehearsal, he continued to drink heavily. The exact amount is unclear, but witnesses reported he was consuming vodka as if it were water. Despite his inebriated state, Bonham's drumming remained powerful and precise. As the day wore on and rehearsals came to an end, the band decided to retire to Jimmy Page's house, the old mill house in Clewer, Windsor. The drinking continued into the night, with Bonham showing no signs of slowing down. His tolerance for alcohol, built up over years of excess, was masking the dangerous levels of intoxication he had reached. As midnight came and went, Bonham finally succumbed to the effects of the alcohol. He fell asleep on a sofa, and concerned friends moved him to a bedroom, placing him on his side, a common precaution for extremely intoxicated individuals. It was the last time anyone saw him alive. The tragic discovery and aftermath. The morning of September 25, 1980, began like any other at Jimmy Page's old mill house. The quiet of the early hours, however, was soon shattered by a discovery that would send shockwaves through the music world. John Paul Jones and Led Zeppelin's manager, Benji Lefebvre, went to check on Bonham. What they found was a scene of tragedy. Bonham lay motionless, unresponsive to the attempts to wake him. The realization dawned quickly: the legendary drummer was gone. Panic ensued as the house erupted into frantic activity. Emergency services were called, but it was already too late. John Bonzo Bonham, the thunderous heartbeat of Led Zeppelin, had died in his sleep at age 32. The following days were a blur of shock, grief, and grim formalities. An autopsy was performed to determine the cause of Bonham's untimely death. The results were as sobering as they were unsurprising. The coroner's report revealed that Bonham had aspirated his own vomit, leading to pulmonary edema, a filling of the lungs with fluid. The official cause of death was listed as accidental asphyxiation. The autopsy also revealed the staggering extent of his final binge. His blood alcohol level was 0.41%, more than 5 times the legal driving limit. In his final 24 hours, it was estimated that Bonham had consumed the equivalent of 40 shots of vodka. This lethal combination of alcohol and its effects had proven too much, even for Bonham's legendary constitution. The news of Bonham's death spread rapidly, leaving the music world in disbelief and mourning. His bands were devastated. Page, Plant, and Jones retreated into seclusion, grappling with the loss of not just a bandmate, but a brother in arms. The upcoming North American tour was immediately canceled as the reality of the situation set in. Messages of condolence poured in from fellow musicians, fans, and industry figures. The rock world had lost one of its most influential figures. Fans gathered outside the old mill house and Bonham's family home, leaving flowers, drumsticks, and heartfelt notes. As the initial shock began to subside, attention turned to the future of the band. They had lost more than just a drummer. They had lost an integral part of their sound, their chemistry, and their very identity. The years that followed his death saw numerous tributes and honors. In 1995, Led Zeppelin was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, with Bonham's son Jason accepting the award on his behalf.
Before your dad died, did he teach you how to play drums? Was he your teacher?
He was the guy that would, and it's funny, I got to work with Bill Collins a few years ago, right at the beginning of us working together, and I told him a funny story because Phil loved my dad, and he said he saw him before he was in Zeppelin, and he said, I said, well, when you'd released Duke and the Turn It On Again came out, and you just beat my dad in the Melody Maker Drum Awards poll. So he got me to learn Turn It On Again by Genesis as a 12-year-old kid.
Right.
Drum magazines consistently rank Bonham at the top of their greatest drummers lists. His childhood home in Redditch became a pilgrimage site for fans, and in 2018, a bronze statue of Bonham was unveiled in his hometown on what would have been his 70th birthday. Now it's time to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a performance that left you in awe, like John Bonham's drumming did for so many? Let us know in the comments section below.